So the war for the best set-top box continues with Apple's introduction of their new Apple TV. As you guys might have seen in my ultimate living room tour, I've got the Nvidia Shield in my setup, so I wanted to compare the two and see who should claim the HDMI slot on my TV. So first things first, let's talk about looks. These are going to be present in your living room, and if you're like me, you want them to look good. The Shield has a bit of an abstract design, but overall it has a rectangular shape. I kind of like the triangles all over the top of it, and I'm especially fond of the glowing green strip. You can even grab a stand to make it sit upright, which I think makes it look pretty cool. With the Apple TV, you get a subtle, compact design that makes it very easy for it to fade into the shadows of your setup. It's a very minimalist design, as you'd expect from Apple, and I think that most people will be pretty happy with that. Although I love the glowing green strip, I think the Apple TV will have a better time blending in with most setups. Now let's move on to the specs and what's actually powering these two. The Shield is packing some pretty impressive hardware. It uses Nvidia's Tegra X1 quad-core 64-bit processor, has 3 gigs of RAM, comes with a default 16 gigabytes of storage, but there's also a 500 gigabyte option as well, and it has an SD card slot to expand your storage, HDMI 2.0, and the ability to output 4K content. You'll also find 2 USB 3.0 ports, which can be used for external storage or some accessories. As for the Apple TV, we've got Apple's A8 chip, which is a dual-core 64-bit processor. It has 2 gigs of RAM, and it comes with a default 32 gigs of storage, yet they can't do this with the iPhone, as well as a 64 gigabyte option, and no options for expandable storage. It also comes with HDMI 1.4, and even though it has a USB-C port, it's only used for servicing and repairs, so you won't be able to use it for any accessories. In the specs and hardware department, the Shield pretty much trumps the Apple TV in every way possible. Speaking of hardware and accessories, the Shield comes with a console-style controller which you'll use as a remote, and if you plan on playing games with someone else, you can grab a second controller to add to the system. They also offer a more standard remote if you want something smaller, and you can also grab that stand for the Shield if you decide you want to change its orientation. As for the Apple TV, it comes with a single remote with no options for additional accessories yet. I can make an entire video going over the differences between the remote options for the Shield or the Apple TV, but here's what stood out to me the most. While it's kind of cool Apple added a touchpad to its remote, I often find myself passing by the option I'd like to select, and this usually leads to more swiping around than I'd like. So it feels less accurate than the simple button style of the Shield remotes, and even the older Apple TV remotes. A pretty nice bonus the Shield remotes have over Apple's is the inclusion of a headphone jack for private listening. This is an excellent feature if you want to listen to your audio through your headphones instead of your speakers or through your TV. This is especially helpful at night when people are sleeping and you don't want to wake them up. Now we've talked a bit about hardware, but let's get into the software side of things. The Shield is running Google's Android TV with some added bells and whistles from Nvidia, and the Apple TV is running Apple's new tvOS. And it has a pretty clean and simple interface as you'd expect. While Android TV does its best to show you all the things you may be interested in and give you recommendations, as well as showing you all of your apps. This can definitely be pretty helpful, but I gotta admit, I do like the cleaner look of the tvOS interface. Both these operating systems offer things like apps, games, voice commands, and search, but who does it better? As of right now, you'll find more apps in the Google Play Store since it's been out quite a bit longer, and all your typical apps are present like Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, but only the Shield can output 4K content while the new Apple TV is still rocking 1080p. As a 4K TV owner and content creator, 4K is a must. A pretty cool feature these both have is the ability to stream content from your phone or tablet to your TV. The Shield TV uses Google Cast, and the apps that support it will have a little streaming icon that lets you send over whatever you're watching. This works for both iOS and Android, which is awesome because it doesn't limit who can cast to your TV. The Apple TV can do the same with AirPlay, but it actually has quite a bit more functionality. You can stream any video to your TV and even completely mirror your device. This is pretty cool if you want to show something off to a group of people or just want to play one of your favorite games on the big screen. There are two pretty big limitations to AirPlay, however, and the first being that you need strong Wi-Fi for the best results, and the second is that you're limited to iOS. So if you're an Android or even Windows Phone user, you get no love here. You also get some pretty cool voice features with both devices. Apple has brought Siri over to their tvOS, and she works just like the iPhone or iPad. Only difference here is she doesn't speak. She's pretty responsive, and it can be pretty helpful to access her even when you're watching something or in an app. You can use her to search for shows, different actors, and even some genres. But I found that you have to be pretty specific with what you ask to turn up any solid results. Sadly, this functionality also seems pretty limited to shows and movies, so if you want to ask Siri any questions that would require a web search, she'll let you know she can't figure it out. Since there is a music app, it would have been nice to see them tie it into her search capabilities. Now with the Shield running Android TV, you've got the power of Google search at your fingertips. And just like Google now, the voice search is impressive. You can even ask normal questions that don't limit you to just finding content, like this. When is the next solar eclipse?
August 21st, 2017.
Something I really like with the voice search here is that it'll go through most of the apps you have, so you're bound to find what you're looking for. And if you guys know me, you know it comes down to just one search result, and where the Apple TV failed, the Shield didn't. And gaming is definitely a thing on both the Shield and the Apple TV, and while Apple has some interesting and pretty fun games, controls can feel a bit awkward. The remote feels a bit small and unnatural when it comes to games that include steering, which are usually very fun for me. And because the Shield comes with a more traditional styled console controller, it feels more natural when playing games. Apple is also limited to just a few available games since its platform is new, but the Shield offers quite a selection to choose from. You've got games like War Thunder, Game of Thrones HD, and a bunch more. And they also have GeForce Now, which is a cloud gaming service with a bunch of A-list games that can stream straight to your device with the ability to stream up to 1080p at 60 frames per second. Of course, depending on your internet speeds. And honestly, I couldn't even tell it was streaming rather than having an actual copy. It's super smooth, and being able to play like this with 2 players is amazing. It is a membership service, but they give you 3 months free, so you definitely got enough time to try it out. So if you're into gaming, this is another big bonus for the Shield over the Apple TV. Now we've compared hardware and a ton of features, but which will I keep for my living room setup? I'm gonna have to go with the Shield. I love the options it provides through its hardware, as well as the stronger voice commands, which you guys know is a big deal for me. Not to mention its amazing gaming capabilities. While I love the simplicity of the Apple TV and its unobtrusive design, I don't think it's quite there yet in the feature department, and not being able to use it to watch 4K content makes it lose quite a few points for me. And as typical conversations go when it comes to Apple versus Android, if you want something more feature-packed with much better hardware, go for Nvidia Shield TV with Android TV OS, but if you want something really simple, you might want to take a look at the Apple TV. But to be completely honest, I really can't say that simplicity is worth going with such a weaker system unless you just really need AirPlay.